Welcome to Beyond Six Figures, the podcast that helps business coaches to micro-niche, get noticed, and become fully booked. Learn from top industry leaders who've successfully taken their businesses and their lives beyond six figures. Get ready to level up your coaching business and make this world a better place, one business at a time. And now, here's your host, Ziv Raviv.
Welcome to Beyond Six Figures. Our guest today is Karen Covy, a former divorce attorney and mediator turned divorce coach, author, speaker, and podcaster with decades of experience helping high-achieving professionals. After years of helping people as an attorney going through divorce, Karen decided to actually help people go through life in divorce and make strategic decisions in their lives. And she's put her experience, professional work aside and decided to pursue her passion of really helping people go through one very difficult transformation in life. Hello, Karen Covy. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
I am great, Ziv. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. I'm so excited to talk with you because you chose such a difficult but narrow, specific problem to tackle. And I bet the stories that you have could make people get upset, get depressed, get cringed, that like you've probably seen so many. So let's start with your story. How did you decide to transition from being an attorney to being a coach? A divorce coach.
Right. Well, it all started one day because I had my own law practice for several decades. And I was a solo practitioner and I had a secretary who had worked for all of the big firms in town, right? And so it was a particularly hot day. I was interviewing a client. The door was open. She was out in the hall. She heard the conversation. The client leaves and she turns and looks at me and she says, "You know, no one does that, right?" And I didn't know what to say. I was like, "Does what?" And she said, "You just spent an hour and a half sitting down and telling this person, here's what your choices are. Here's how this works. You can do this. You can do it this way, this way, this way, or this way. What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, if the other attorneys aren't telling the clients what their choices are, what are they doing?" And she said, "Here's a contract, sign here." And I was horrified. Because this is going through a divorce is one of the biggest transitions of your life. It changes everything in your life. And to me, my responsibility was to advise people of all the different ways there were to do it. And today, there are a whole lot more ways to get a divorce than there used to be, right? So I saw the gap and I said, to me, that's wrong. People have to understand what their choices are, and they can't make a choice if they don't even know they have one. So for a while, I thought I would be both a lawyer and a coach. I had to, at some point, commit to one way or the other. And I said, I see this need. This is what I want to do. I want to help empower my clients to make better choices, which means telling them first and foremost that they have them.
This is so important because you actually noticed a gap in transparency in the market where when you work with a lawyer, sometimes it's not completely clear about the choices you can make. And as a coach, you empower your clients and allow them to know what are their strategic options. And those decisions, as you said, they change what they have, they change how they feel, they change their day-to-day, they change literally their social status in all sorts of ways. It affects everything about their lives. So
100%.
So I want to know, how did you have to initially explain that, the transition to your clients? How did they receive it?
A lot of people, it took me a long time to make the transition completely. And that's why I call myself a recovering lawyer, because when people hear the word lawyer, they immediately think I'm going to represent them in court. I'm going to do their negotiation or their documents or whatever they think a lawyer does, right? And that is not what I do. As a coach, I fill in the gaps that their lawyer is going to leave. I can help them prepare for a hearing, prepare for court, prepare for the divorce itself, prepare for negotiations and mediation. As a lawyer, like I did it all. I'm a lawyer, a mediator, an arbitrator, collaborative divorce professional. I did it all and I know what's involved. So that puts me in a position to be able to advise clients of what their choices are, rather than simply tell them, oh, you have to do this, because it's not my life. I don't get to make those choices for people. I think people have to make them for themselves. So that's sort of how I started making the transition. Like I said, I thought I could do both for a while, but being a lawyer, I had very little control over my schedule. I could have tomorrow all booked with coaching calls, and at literally 1 minute to 5 o'clock, get notice of an emergency motion. And all of that had to be bumped because I'd have to show up in court the next morning. And so that made things a little bit trickier. But what I realized in making the transition, it was an education process for me to explain to people, what does a coach do? What's the gap that I fill? Why would they need me and a lawyer? And the truth is, they do need both, because for most people, the law is about 10% of their divorce. The other 90% is everything else. It's how you do it. It's how you talk to your spouse, how you handle conflict. Where do you live? What do you do with your kids? What do you do step 1, step 2, step 3? Because if you do the right things in the wrong order, you still get a mess, right? So I do all of that for people. And it's, as coaching has grown, it becomes a little bit easier for people to understand what I do. But I still find that I'm educating them about that as much as anything else.
So people, your clients, they actually hire a lawyer, an attorney, and they hire you. And they go through this process from the beginning all the way through the end. And I want to ask you, usually, who do they hire first? Is it you or the lawyer?
If they're smart, it's me, because I take people from before they're even ready for the lawyer. I help people figure out, is this what you want to do in the first place? Do you want to get a divorce, or are you still in the stage where you're not sure? Because then let's talk about that. The last thing you want in a decision of this magnitude is regret. Right? So let's figure out if this is what you want to do. Yes. Okay. Now, how do you make a plan and get prepared before you even walk into the lawyer's office, so that you're walking into the right lawyer's office and you know when it's right and you know when it's wrong? Because what I realized is that the quality of my clients' lives after divorce depends on how they go through a divorce, which in turn depends on which lawyer do they hire. If you go into the litigator's office, they're going to tell you, I will fight for your rights. We can win this. Don't worry. I'll take care of you. You go into the mediator's office, they'll say, we can work this out. So every single divorce professional is not telling you what you need. It's the same you and the same facts in every situation, but you're getting different advice based on what they do. And what you hear is, this is what I need. And all they're telling you is, this is what I do. And so by working with a coach or working with me beforehand, I can say to them, here's what your options are. And here's how you make that decision. Here's how you choose. And this is the kind of divorce professional that you need or don't need. Not everybody needs everything, right? I'm a firm believer that every person needs at least some legal advice, because this is a big decision and you've got to make sure that you do it properly. You might not need full-on legal representation. You may be able to use a lawyer for this piece of your divorce or that piece of it, or using them as a consultant. Whether or not you can do that depends on you and your circumstance. You don't know how to figure that out. That's where I come in.
I love it. A lot of times, a coach is already like on the side of the client. They want to help the client go through a transformation. It's always about point A to point B. And you help people define what is point B, and if it's the right move, and what are the different ways to get there. and you help them, guide them through this. Now, a lot of times people go through these transformations, especially, I guess, in your line of work, but with every coach. Sometimes the client is not happy about some of the results that they find out. They get through the transformation, and they're just frustrating moments. How do you actually set up the expectations with the client from the get-go so that they don't later on go to you and say, why didn't you fix this? Why didn't you help me make better choices or whatever? How do you deal with that?
It's about setting expectations, I find, is about two things: honesty and having hard conversations, right? When clients come into me, I'm really honest with them. I can't fix their life. That's not what I do, and it's not my job, but I can help them decide what they want to do, and I can help them fix their lives. And fundamentally, that's so much more empowering for them, because if I can give my clients the tools that it takes to analyze their situation like a lawyer would, and to work through it in an organized and empowered way, this is a skill set. It's not just an event, right? So what they're doing as they go through divorce, what they're learning when they work with me, isn't just about getting to the end. Yeah, that's important, and getting the result they want. Yeah, that's important. But now the skills they've learned are reusable, right? And in another situation, in another tough circumstance, they can rely on the same kinds of tools to help them get through that.
Can you give some example for such tools?
I would, let me think of a particular problem. So it's a way to analyze making difficult decisions, right? When people are faced with divorce, to begin with, they don't know, like, how do I decide if this is the right thing, if I'm making a mistake, if I'm not? And so I took research based on a couple of university professors, Chip and Dan Heath, and they wrote a book called Decisive. And in that, they set forth 4-step framework for how do you make these difficult decisions? And they analyzed the research and history and science and all the things so that I felt comfortable using their work because it had a depth of experience behind it. It had some proven track records. So I used that, and then I expanded on it a little bit and used that framework to apply to personal decision-making, because a lot of my clients are super successful people. They have no problem making decisions in their work life, in their business. But when it comes to their personal life, all of a sudden they freeze. All of a sudden they're paralyzed because it feels, well, it is personal, but it feels so much riskier. It feels so much harder, right? And so it's about saying to them, how do you get out of the analysis paralysis and use this framework and go step by step to say, okay, this is how you make tough decisions. And oh, by the way, this framework has nothing to do with the good old list of pros and cons, which fundamentally does not work. And if that's the tool you're using, you're going to stay stuck because you'll spin forever.
Wow. So, a lot of people, they have the ability to make decisions. They make decisions all day long. But at this specific topic, where their decisions are going to affect kids, they're going to affect their social status, they're going to affect their day-to-day, they're going to affect everyone in their family, everyone in their friends. It's a huge decision. And that can create analysis paralysis, where if we just use basic tools, like what are all of the pros and what are all of the cons, that's like just, and then what, right? We have a bunch of pros and a bunch of cons. But with the book Decisive and your frameworks that you use, we can help our clients make smarter decisions and establish the emotional confidence in making the right decisions. Now, some coaches actually are requested to make decisions for their clients. I wonder, how is it for you? Like, how often does it happen where maybe the lawyer suggested a compromise and now they need to make a decision? Should I take it or should I not take it, and they come to you and you help them and you analyze it, but eventually they just want a decision. How often do you actually answer a question like that to a client? Is it common? And what do you do in that situation?
It depends on how they phrase the question. I mean, let's remember I am a lawyer and the background and training comes in handy a lot. If somebody says to me, based on your experience, what are the results likely to be if I do A or if I do B? Which of these options would be the most beneficial to me in this way or that way or the other way? I can help them analyze that. But if they say to me, what should I do? I say to them, that's up to you. I will not, cannot ethically, I don't think, make a decision for someone else. I can tell them, like I said, what the upsides and downsides are. I can help them say, this is how you make a decision. But how you make a decision fundamentally has got to align with who you are, who your spouse is, and what are your values. Where are you trying to get to at the end of the day? And if I said, oh, I think you should do X, whatever X is, because that's my value, but it's not yours, then I'm doing you a disservice. You have to make decisions that fundamentally line up with your values, because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to live with that decision, not me. I will not make a decision for someone else, but I'll help them make it. And people always feel better about that because that's the empowerment piece. How empowering is it if you say to me, I don't know what to do, tell me what to do, I tell you and you do it? That's not empowering. That's treating you like a child.
And sometimes the question, as you mentioned before, is actually about the topic you understand really well. And if the question is just like, what's the implication of that? Is that good for me if I want this result? Then you can actually give them that advice. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can say, I was going to say I don't have a crystal ball, but I actually, so many people have asked me for one. I got one, right? Don't know how to use it, but I have the crystal ball. So I can't tell you what's going to happen to you in the future, but it's all probability. Look, if you do this, in my experience, this is the result that happens most of the time. Is that going to happen to you? I don't know, yes or no. But if you do these things in this order, this is the likely result that you're going towards. And then that helps people figure out, is that the result they want? Is that the journey they want? Because there are a lot of ways to get to the same result. Some of them are totally miserable, and some of them are much less so. So which way do you want to get to where you end up?
For those who are listening right now, and it's audio only, Karen Covy actually has on her table behind her a crystal ball. So if someone is asking her asking her to foresee the future, she can tell them that she has the crystal ball, but she cannot really use it. So that's really a wonderful prop to have. And just wanted the listeners to kind of see the picture in their head. And we'll put a picture also from this video on the show notes. Karen, I want to ask you about your business. You're also a business owner, and you are a business coach, like you're a divorce coach, and you have clients coming in. And I'm guessing that a lot of them come to you from referrals because they've heard from other people about you. Do you do anything except for referrals to attract clients to you?
Oh, you mean except for having people refer to me? Like what else?
Exactly.
What other business development stuff that I do? Everything. Everything except advertising. Right now, I mean, I've tried advertising with marginal success, but I'm all over social media. I've got a website built to answer people's questions. I did that very intentionally. I have a podcast. I wrote a book. I've got all kinds of free things that I offer to people for signing up to get them on my email list. And I also appear on other people's podcasts. I mean, I'm here, right? So I'm constantly doing outreach and networking and meeting with people and trying to be in as many places as I can to spread the word and to get my brand known because that's what attracts people to me. So I do a lot of SEO and all the things.
I love it. So on your podcast, is that something that you do weekly? Do you have interviews in it? Like, what's your strategy around that?
I have an interview-based podcast. I release an episode once a week. It's been going for, I'll call it 2.5-ish years. I also experiment sometimes with shorter series. So for a while, I did something called Podcast Stories. And for 4 or 5 weeks, I did the regular episode on Wednesday and then a series episode on Friday, which I may be bringing back in the fall. So it's a lot of, I think that if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to test things, and you never know what the market is going to want or respond to if you don't try. And a lot of the things that I have tried over the years have flopped, but enough of them have worked that I have a business. So it's just, if you always do the same thing with the world changing as fast as it does, you're going to get left behind. You've got to, I think, you've got to keep trying things and innovating and doing new things. So that's what I do. And the podcast is one way to do that.
And what is your ideal interviewee?
I think usually it's somebody, the topic of the podcast is called Off the Fence with Karen Covy. So the idea is decision-making, divorce, and more. So a divorce professional, a decision-making professional, or somebody who can help my ideal clients in some way or other. The people that I interview don't have to be divorce professionals. I've interviewed a lot of people who are not, but they might have a message for people. For example, I interviewed someone who is an expert in menopause. I've interviewed health experts. I've interviewed people who were image consultants or professional organizers or all of those things. I've interviewed cybersecurity experts and people who are like business valuators and forensic accountants. And so it's anybody that could have something that would help my clients make the transformation that they need. And my clients, I have a broad base of clients. They tend to be very educated and intelligent people. And so they're curious about a lot of things. And because divorce affects so many areas of life, there's a lot. If I can relate your subject matter expertise to divorce or decision making, you're a good candidate for somebody to be on my podcast.
How hard is it to find those people and get them to accept and actually schedule the interview?
In the beginning is a little more challenging. In the beginning, I had to rely a lot on my personal relationships. And I also went on podcast matching services like Podmatch to find people, which was a great thing and a great tool for finding people. The longer you do it, the more people start to come to you. So I now attract people who will come to me and want to be guests on my podcast, and I turn people away. Some people, you get the solicitation and I look at that and I think, you have nothing to do with anything that I'm talking about. Why? Like, all you had to do was look at my podcast for 10 seconds and know you're not an appropriate guest. So my job now is more sifting through those kinds of requests and trying to figure out who would be the best people for the podcast and who wouldn't, or to actually target people and say, hey, you're talking about something that I think would really benefit my listeners. Will you come on my podcast?
Do you have a team that works with you and for you?
I have a virtual team. So I am pretty much I'm the hub of the team, and I've got somebody that does the website. I have somebody that is a virtual assistant, somebody that helps with the podcast. I also, and I think of it now, I realize that I misspoke. I do have one person that I advertise with. So she helps me with that because it's a site where I list myself on her site. I'm one of her trusted professionals. She brings the clients in, and then it becomes a referral engine there. So yeah, I have a virtual team, and I really like it that way. Nobody is like there. I have no real physical office. I have an address, but I don't go there. I don't have a team there.
You also have educational products, online courses of sorts that people can get started by themselves if they can't afford you, I guess.
It could be that they can't afford one-on-one coaching, or that they're just the do it by my bootstraps kind of people. And the other thing is that the courses combine really well with the coaching. So it's not an either or, it can be a both and. So when people work with me as a coach, I give them access to the appropriate online programs so that they have something that they can educate themselves with, which they can choose to use or not. But if they do, then that gives them one leg up. Then we're not spending coaching time saying, this is what your choices are. This is how this works. This is what you've got to do. They already know all of that. And so they can come in and we can get right to it and say, okay, in your circumstance, what should you do with this information? How does it apply to you? Where do you want to go? And then we can really start getting into the meat of things that helps them a lot.
I really love everything you do. Karen, you are such a professional as a business owner and as a coach. It's inspiring to look through how you conduct your podcast, how you do your quiz and your freebies and your sales pages. I really hope that everyone stop their car right now and take a moment to learn more about what you do at karencovy.com, and we'll put all the links in the show notes. I think that your story is really inspiring. You're basically in a niche where there's only Karen Covy. There's no one else you need to know. You just need one. It's not like multiple business coaches. There's 10 of them that you know, and you need to choose and whatnot. You just need one. And it's such a small, specific niche that unfortunately takes a long time to solve. And just like out of curiosity, what was the longest process that you were facilitating with a client, if that's okay to share?
Oh my goodness. You mean the longest time that somebody was going through a divorce?
With you, working with you.
Me.
Not divorcing you, but working with you as a coach.
I would say probably that, it's hard to say, but I would say 2-3 years is the longest.
Wow. Yeah.
But as a lawyer involved in the divorce process, I've been involved in divorces that have taken way longer than that, close to a decade. Because if you really want to fight, you can go all the way through the court system, and then the judge makes a decision. And you're like, I don't like that decision. Then you go up to appeal. Then you come back down to the court system. Then you start it. This is a process that can go on endlessly. And then after you're done and you finally get divorced, you can go back to court and fight with your ex about when are you going to see the kids, or should you have this day or that day, or you can always find something to fight about. And I've been involved as a lawyer in divorces that have been going on for a decade, which is why I do what I do, because it doesn't have to be that way. And if people understand what their choices are and the impact of those choices on whether they screw up their relationship with their ex so badly that they end up in court all the time, or if they have a high conflict ex, how to manage that person so they don't end up in court all the time, that's my mission.
Is there a client you will say no to?
Yes. I mean, if somebody comes in, and to go back to tie this back to your original question from the beginning about expectations, if somebody thinks that I am going to wave a magic wand and make their life perfect, and this divorce, it's not going to take very long and it's not going to cost very much, and we can be done in 30 days and that'll be it. If they're not open to the fact that that's not usually how it goes, I can't work with them, because I'm not going to lie to them and I'm not going to make them false promises. And the other kind of person that I will turn away is somebody who is determined to be a victim, who really doesn't want to help themselves because they're not coachable. If you try to help somebody and say, look, if you just do A, B, and C, you'll get the result you want. And they're just looking at me and saying, but I can't, but it's not fair. It's too hard. You know what? There's nothing about divorce that's fair. You got to start with that supposition that it's not going to be fair But if you want to give yourself the best chance of ending up where you want to be at the end of it, here's the things you can do to help yourself. If somebody's willing to take those suggestions and run with them, awesome. But if they're just going to wallow and they really don't want to get to the end of the divorce in one piece, I can't help them.
As you were talking, I listened to everything you said. And if you just replace the word divorce with business, everything you said is still true. Business is not fair. And if you're not coachable, we can't work with that. We can't help you. And it's just, the similarities are amazing. Karen Covy, I want to thank you for your time with us today, sharing your story and your expertise as a coach. Just salute to you. Thank you so much for taking the time and for connecting with us and sharing with us your processes. We'll share all of your links in the show notes. Where do you want people to go if they want to learn more about you?
The easiest place is at my website. It's KarenCovy.com, KarenCovy.com. There's no E in my version of Covy.
And again, KarenCovy.com. We'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much, Karen. And thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of Beyond Six Figures.
Thanks for listening to Beyond Six Figures. Check out the extended show notes that include bonus material, practical tips, and exclusive resources on our website, zivraviv.com. Until next time, keep dreaming big and pushing your business and your life beyond six figures.